Right. So today we're discussing about Kafka architecture because as part of the architecture series, whatever I'm discussing for a very long time about solution architecture, enterprise architecture, business systems, applications, data, cloud, DevOps, right? So different architectures we have. Now and then, as part of implementing cloud services, because most of the applications now and then moving towards cloud environment. So there are a lot of tools and technologies are we using in the field of cloud, even in the field of DevOps as well. When we want to understand about the architecture, because this is something intended for the people who wants to become architect roles, irrespective of the kind of expertise they have, right? So either they can be people whoever have experience in the field of Java for a very long time, wherein they want to move towards the architectural point of view, or else people who are experienced in the field of enterprise area, where they want to become enterprise architects, all that. It's always important for us to understand different perceptions of architectures, which was discussed for a very long time. For a very long time, I'm discussing about these things. But whereas today, I'm going to discuss about the Kafka architecture, because generally when we try to understand about uh, the Kafka architecture, whatever the kind of components we have, and as far as the internal structure of the Kafka itself is concerned, that is what something which we must be knowing, right? So either it can be multiple consumes, or it can be offline messaging, or it can be message replies, or it can be low latencies, high volume, fault tolerancing, etc. All that. In this regard, so when we try to understand about Apache Kafka architecture is concerned from the single cluster point of view, there are different components we will be having. So being into solution architect role, whenever we try to transform ourselves into the solution architecture, especially from the Java perspective, right? So Java solution architect or something, right? So when we want to transform our career, it's always important for us to understand about multiple architectures. In this regard, so Kafka architecture components one must understand. There are different components we have. One is about the broker component. Second, we have producer, consumer, message, zookeeper, and all that. Now, when it comes to the component which is called broker component, which is a core component of Kafka, which is a kind of messaging system, which will be used to host the topic log and as well as maintain the leader and following the partitions with conditions with zookeeper and all that. At the same time, Kafka clusters, whatever the consists of one or more brokers, will be maintained and as well as a replication of partitions across the clusters under the broker component. Now, when it comes to the producer component, which publishes the messages to a topic, these messages are appended to one of the topic, which one of the users of the Kafka cluster maintains ordering of the messaging per partition, but not across the partitions, all that stuff. Now, when it comes to the messaging part itself is concerned, whatever the Kafka messaging consists of array of bytes addition to this has an optional metadata which is called keys, all that. So whatever the kind of customer keys which can be generated to store the messages in a controlled way to the partitions, like messaging having a particular key is written to a specific partitions, etc. All that stuff. At the same time, Kafka can also write the messages in batch modes that can reduce the network round trip for each messages and all. Batches are compressed while transportation over the network, etc. All that. In connect to that, when it comes to the batch mode, which increases the throughput but decreases the latencies. Hence, there are trade-offs between latencies and throughputs and all, everything will be there. Next component is called consumer, which is a subscribe from a message from a topic, where one or more consumers can subscribe a topic from different partitions and all everything, called consumer groups. At the same time, when any kind of two consumers of the same consumer group cannot be subscribed the messaging from the same partition, followed by this, each consumer maintains the offset for subscribing the partitions and all, which can replay the subscription of messages by locating the already offset of the partitions of a topic. Last component, but not least, which is called topic, which is majorly a component which can be considered like a folder in a file system, like when we are producing the published messagings to the topic and consumer consumes the messaging from here. So whatever the messages are appended to the topic, each message is sent published to the topic at a particular location named as an offset, which means the position of messaging is identified by the offset numbers. Whatever the each topics we have taken, whatever the Kafka cluster maintains a partition log. Each partitions are hosted in a single server, and that can be replicated across the configurable servers or number of servers with fault tolerance, etc. At the same time, whenever each partition has one server, normally it acts as a leader and zero or more servers with active followers and all. In this regard, Kafka provides an ordering of messaging per partition, but make sure it's not cross the partitions when it comes to the conventions is concerned. So these are the different components which will be there, especially whenever we are creating Kafka architecture, especially whenever we are working on single cluster. Using single cluster is what something which being into solution architect role, whenever we are moving towards solution architect or while we are understanding about Apache Kafka, as far as the architecture itself is concerned, this is what and how usually one should understand. So this is all about this video. If you have any questions, please go ahead.